live with the absolute unity of God, and there's something that has to express itself throughout the day in everything we do, everything we say, everything we think, and so on. Then I said that by the Rabbi, we see notes in their recollections that by the age of 5 or 6, their bodies have become totally subservient to the will of Hashem. They've learned what the Shulchan Aruch says, how we should behave, and they do it. And it becomes part of their nature. That's what we were talking about. And then I gave an example of Avraham Avinu. I spoke about Avraham Avinu, that he had to sacrifice. Hashem told him, take your son for an offering. So he took him up, and he was ready to slaughter him, as hard as it would seem, and the angels themselves were weeping. And the tears of the angels fell into the eyes of Yitzchak. So then I digressed on a question: why did Yitzchak, and that made Yitzchak go blind, according to one opinion. That's why Yitzchak. And the Rebbe asked, why did Yitzchak have to be blind for 60 years of his life? Why? And the answer was so that Yaakov, our ancestor, our great grandfather Yaakov, should receive the blessings from Yitzchak. But it required a deception. It was motivated by Rivka, and Yaakov said he's going to perceive the deception, and Father will curse me, and that will be terrible for me and terrible for the history, for the future of the Jewish people. She said, let the curse be on me. That's what Rivka said. Unbelievable words. Let the curse be on me. You do what I'm telling you. And she prepared food for her husband, and he had to take it in. And when his father said, how did you come back so quickly from hunting and preparing the food and everything? And Yaakov answered, Hashem helped. Hashem helped me. Hashem speeded my way. And Yitzchak already smelled something was wrong. Esau didn't talk that way. He said, is that you, my son? Esau? He says, it is I. Esau is your firstborn. Those same words can be read without the comma in the middle. It's me, Esau, your firstborn. But he didn't tell a lie. He said, it is I. Esau is your firstborn. In Hebrew, you don't say is. It is I, Esau, your firstborn. At that point, we had digressed so far from the point that I forgot how to get back. You need to have a cord, when you go into a labyrinth, you need to have a thread to guide you back out again. What were we talking about? We were talking about the question that Avraham, when he took the knife, the slaughtering knife, a special knife for slaughtering a bull, or slaughtering a big animal, you can't just have a little pocket knife. It says he sent out his hand to take the knife. Why does it say he sent out his hand? Why doesn't the Torah just say he took the knife? And the answer is because his hand didn't want to go. His hand knew better what Hashem wanted than his brain. His brain interpreted Hashem's commandment literally, take your son up as an offering. And Hashem said, no, you're not interpreting it properly. I said, take him up. You did that. It was a test. You passed the test. Now take him down. Which Rashi brings this as Avram questions Hashem. Why was we talking about? To show how the limbs of a tzaddik become so in tune with the will of God that the one's body itself automatically does the right thing. That's what we're talking about. And that's the idea of learning Hasidus and integrating Hasidus in our life, that our will should become merged with the will of Hashem, and we should carry out the will of Hashem in our physical body. And that's why that's our central position in the whole of creation. Because otherwise, the will of Hashem is in heaven. Hashem and his will are in heaven. And the physicality of the world is down here. What connects them? We do. That's our job. And that's what it says here. The Jew, in the fourth line, first paragraph, is a creature of heaven and earth because he has a divine soul, a godly soul, right? So then we spoke about the idea, what the Rebbe said to Rabbi Greenwald. Tell them they have a neshama. This is truly a part of godliness. We're going to learn that in chapter 2. And it's enclosed in an earthly vessel, which is a physical body and an animal soul. So we have a physical body which resists godliness, the physical body, and the animal soul within us, which is also called by other names like the natural soul, or the vital soul, or the animal soul, or all names, or the Yetzer Hara, all evil inclination, all terms for what basically amounts to the same thing. If you want to make a distinction, we'll say this again later, or maybe recall this discussion today, that the Yetzer Hara is the intellect of the animal soul, and the Nefesh Bahamas is the emotions and the drives, the animal drives of the animal soul. So you've got intellect and emotion. But otherwise, they get lumped together. They're basically the same thing. Looking for the place? You got the place?
No.
No. First paragraph, line 4 and 5 and 6. Still in the first paragraph. Okay? So that was the point that we were making, that the idea is, what we're aiming at is what it says in the Ethics of the Fathers. Our goal is, like it says, all your deeds should be for the sake of heaven. Kol ma'asecha yihiyu l'shem shamayim. All your deeds should be for the sake of heaven. And that implies that there's a realm of your existence which is called all your deeds. That's you. But you want them to be in harmony, total harmony with the will of God. So that's the Shem Shemaim. All your deeds should be the Shem Shemaim. Not just all your deeds are for you, all your deeds are for the sake of Hashem. Then there's a deeper level, which is also stated in Pirkei Avos, in the Ethics of the Fathers, which is know Hashem in all your ways. All your ways are Hashem's ways. That's the idea of where you're so trained and you're so in harmony with godliness that you perceive godliness and you do godliness. And it's not that you have a realm of your own activities that you want to harmonize with God. Your activities are the activities of God. And where do we see this? We see this in a great tzaddik. What's the Hebrew words for it? B'chol darachecha de'ehu. You should know God in all your ways. I'll give you an example. And this will be the last digression on this in this introduction. There were two great sages who teach a similar lesson, but there's a difference between them. One was the Rabbi and one was his student. The student was Rabbi Akiva. Great person. We have the whole Torah from Rabbi Akiva. When the Romans persecuted the Jews and killed all the sages, all the teachers, he and a few students, 5 students, survived. And from them, we have the transmission of the Torah. Everything comes through Rabbi Akiva. And he was a Baal Tshuva, by the way. And he taught us that when things look bleak and terrible, and everything that looks bad, we have to remember and say, this too must be from God. It must be for good. In other words, you see bad. Look around the world, turn on the news, see what's going on in the world, and it's terrible. Tremendous confusion, tremendous darkness. There was never such a tremendous darkness as in this generation now, when people call the darkness itself, they call it light. It's really the epitome of what they say, that this world is a world of deceit and falsehood. Everything is false. People say one thing, and in their mouth, and with their mouths, and with their words, and in their heart, they think the opposite. That's why this world is a false world. So even when everything looks black and dark, you have to say, says Rabbi Akiva, this too must be from Hashem. There surely is deep hidden within this, not visible to us, but hidden goodness of God. Nothing bad comes down from God, only good. That was what he taught. Why did that happen? Because in his time, there was the Romans conquered the land of Israel. They destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, and the Jews were struggling for survival. And there was a rebellion, and Rabbi Akiva saw the rebellion. At first, he thought the rebellion would succeed under Bar Kokhba, because he was a mighty, mighty warrior. And when Rabbi Akiva perceived that he was not going to, that his mind was not in the right place, and therefore he would not be able to succeed. And he said, if you're going to persist in this attitude of yours, I think you're not going to succeed. But I don't want to undermine what you're doing. I'm just going to disappear. And quietly, he left. All he took with him, he took a donkey. On the donkey, he had some scrolls, some holy writings, which he wanted to take with him. He had a candle, so he could learn at night. And he had a rooster, so he could wake up in the morning and daven. You know the story? You tell the story.
So he goes and he has.
What?
So he goes, he's in the, it's like night, he goes knocking on people's door.
He came to a city. He came to the city, he wanted to enter the city to be protected. The city had walls, it had a gate, and he asked to enter.
Right, and no one would let him.
He said, no, the gates are locked, we're not opening the gates. So he had to spend the night in the forest. Then what happened?
I forgot what order, but like his rooster got eaten.
A wolf came and ate the rooster.
His candle blew out.
A wind blew out the candle.
What else was
Came a lion and chased away the donkey. So now here he was. If I can make such a comparison, where do we see this in English literature? King Lear, stripped of everything, abandoned by everybody, all alone in the wilderness, with the raw elements of nature.
He still said everything happens.
Then what happened? So that's the epitome of darkness. His hope for the salvation of the Jewish people was in God's blessing for Bar Kokhba. He saw Bar Kokhba was going against the Torah in certain ways, and everybody said it's not going to work. So he left. He left quietly that people shouldn't become demoralized. So then he said, so then he was really at a low. He was very low. And a Roman army came by. And they broke into the city. They succeeded. They overcame the city. They killed everybody. If he had been in the city, he would have been killed too. But they didn't see him because he didn't have a candle. They would have seen his candle at night. The rooster would have crowed. The donkey would have gone hee-haw. And he would have been discovered. So he was all the bad things happened, saved him. I just read an article on Chabad.org yesterday about a soldier who was wounded in Gaza. And he says, the best thing ever happened to me. I thank God. He himself was born. His parents couldn't have children. They wrote a letter to the Lubavitcher Rebbe asking a blessing to have a child. And he was born from this bracha. Why was it the best thing that happened to him that he got wounded? Because he was wounded in the head. He was hit by flying pieces of metal from a bomb called shrapnel. He was badly wounded, and he was taken to the hospital immediately for surgery. They removed the shrapnel, and they discovered that he had a cancerous tumor in the brain, and they were able to remove it, and it was the early stage of saved his life. He said, the best thing that ever happened to me was I got hit by shrapnel. It's an amazing story. I mean, his birth was a miracle, and his life was a miracle. His parents had many other children after him, by the way. So there you are. So bad things, we have to train ourselves as Rabbi Akiva to see that even bad things come from heaven and they are good. I said that's one attitude. But there's a much deeper attitude of involvement with the will of God, which is conveyed to us by Rabbi Akiva's Rebbe. His name was Nahum, and he came from a city called Gamzu. So what's the name of the city? Gamzu. In Hebrew, Gamzu means this also. So he took this as a nickname, Gamzu L'Toiva. That became his motto. Gamzu L'Toiva. I'm from Gamzu L'Toiva. Toiva is good. This too must be good. And he was on a higher level than Rabbi Akiva because he was one generation closer to the Beis HaMikdash. Therefore, the awareness of God was much stronger in him than in a later generation. And he did not achieve this level of seeing the good even in the bad. He perceived the good. He didn't see bad. It wasn't his. Here's another principle. You should write this down. It's a fundamental principle of Torah, of Hasidus, is Hamoyach Shalit al Halev, which is that we are human beings. We are created erect. We stand on 2 feet. So therefore, our head is higher than our hand, than our heart. And whoever is in possession of a high ground in a conflict has an advantage. So we have an advantage that our mind can control our feelings, and must control our feelings. And that's what Chassidus is teaching us all the time. So in Rabbi Akiva's case, the mind has to control the feelings. The feelings tell you this is bad, and your mind says, no, it's really good. You'll see. Hang on, you'll see. You'll see that it'll work out good. There was a girl, when I was working in Buffalo on the campus, she used to come and sit at the table with me, and she was very popular. A lot of people used to come over to talk at the table because she was sitting there. And she had a job. She supported herself. She was actually from Texas. She supported herself by working in a car sales place. And there's a holiday time, the winter holiday season, they have special classes in Minnesota for girls. So the rabbi that I was working for, the shliach, urged her to go to these classes so that she would grow in Yiddishkeit. So she said, but I'll lose my job. I have to be at work right at the day after New Year's. As soon as the new year begins, I have to be at work. He said, go to this class, Hashem will help. And she convinced him. So she went, and she hoped Hashem would help. She came, she had a great time. We were there for 2 weeks or so. She came back, she went back to work, and the boss said, I told you, you have to be here the day after New Year's, you're fired. Oh no. She's fired. She asked me if I would be her character reference. I said, okay. We went to court to appeal that the boss should take her back. So she could have parnasa, so she could continue to pay the rent and continue in this situation where she was able to learn every day and participate in a Jewish way of life. Her family were not from. She didn't want to be at home with her family. Or it would have been much more difficult for her. We went to court, and you know what happened? The judge threw us out. Not only threw us out, he scolded us. Scolded me, scolded her. You should know better. You can't break a contract because of your religious beliefs. If he said that's how he hired you, he has every right to fire you, and you have no recourse to make that he should make it up with you. He has no reason to take you back. So she was devastated. So she had to go home. She went back to Texas. Wasn't too long after that, there was a young man who had learned in Morristown. He learned very diligently. He'd become a rabbi. He was a pharmacy student. He was working in the pharmacy in Houston. They were introduced. They got married. He returned to his original desire, which is to do shlichus, and they became shluchim in Houston. If she hadn't gone to that conference for Jewish women in Minnesota, she would never have been fired, and she never would have met her husband. So it's a great example of this attitude. Rabbi Akiva says, even when things look dark, we have to know that it's really good. Well, it doesn't seem that way, but it really is, because nothing bad comes down from heaven. Or Rabbi Akiva's teacher, Rabbi Nachum Ish Gamzu, who used to say, this is also good. He would see the good, it was perceivable to him, and he just understood whatever happened, this is how Hashem was making things work out. Because we don't understand why Hashem is doing it this way, but so there's a lot of things I don't understand, but surely this is really good. Oh, this is great. So when things go bad, he would say, this is great. Gamzu l'taiva. And there's a wonderful story about him that the Romans used to make certain decrees to the Jewish people, since they were a conquered country, they had to pay tax. Why did the Romans conquer all these different countries? To make money. They forced the people to pay taxes. And the taxes were very, very high. And they were unbearable. The Jewish people saw there's no way that we can pay this tax. We don't have it. So they would send a delegation to Rome to appear before the high court in Rome, before the Caesar, and appeal. The decree should be softened. So they sent 3 rabbis. One of them was Reb Nachum Ish Gamzu, the man from Gamzu. And they gave him a chest full of gold and silver and jewels to present this as a gift to His Majesty, the Caesar, the King of Rome. And if he would accept the bribe, then perhaps he would soften the decree. On the way there, they had to stay at an inn, at a hotel. What do you do with gold and jewelry? You don't leave it in the room. The person who comes to clean up the room is going to steal everything. You give it to the owner, the concierge, and he takes care of it. He puts it in the safe, gives it back to you. Over Shabbos, because they couldn't take care of it over Shabbos. After Shabbos, they went and they reclaimed the chest full of gold and silver and jewelry, and they go on their way. They open it to check what's there. It's earth, filled with earth. The owner stole everything. They said, "Oy vey," and Nachum said, "Don't worry, it's great. It's good. It's the best." How could it be the best? You're going to give this to the emperor? He's going to throw you in jail. He's going to have you executed. It's an insult. You're insulting the emperor. You're sending him earth? He said, listen to me. Let's just do it. So they went to Rome and they gave this to the emperor, and he was outraged. And a soldier came over to him and said, Your Majesty, the Jews are smart people. They're not insulting you. I know that there's a tradition that when Abraham, their great-grandfather, had to fight a war against 4 kings, Nimrod and his allies, the great war between the 4 kings and the 5 kings. The 5 kings, like were Sodom had 5 boroughs, just like New York has 5 boroughs, and they rebelled against Nimrod and his buddies. They didn't want to pay the taxes. After 12 years of paying taxes, they said no more. And so the 4 kings got together and they came and they made war against the 5 kings of Sodom. Now, Avram had a nephew, and it was also his brother-in-law, who was also our great-grandfather, as things have worked out, because they married. He was the father of Sarah, our mother, and he was living, his name was Lot, and he was living in Sodom, and he got kidnapped. And Avram, he was fighting with Avram. He was jealous of Avram. He was fighting with him. Avram said, "Not good. We should fight. Let's split up." They split up. He said, "But if you're ever in trouble, I'll come and I'll help you." And he got kidnapped. So Avram set out after him and took on the 4 mightiest kings in the world. And he defeated them. How did he defeat them? He had heavenly powers. He didn't have soldiers. He had a very powerful servant who helped him. He had his students who also probably were there to help him. But mainly he took earth and he threw the earth at him. That's what it says in the Medrash. He threw earth or dust at these 4 kings, and all the particles of earth turned into arrows and killed all the soldiers. That's what it says in the Medrash. So this soldier came to the Caesar and said, there's a tradition amongst the Jews that Abraham, their father, conquered the 4 mightiest kings by throwing earth at them. Maybe this is the same earth, and that's what they're giving you. That's a present that no king could possibly expect. Gold and jewel and silver he had plenty of. So the king was fighting a war in France with the French, the Gauls, and they sent this up to the soldiers and they tried it and it worked. So he gave them back gold and silver and sent them back, and he softened the decree, which is what they hoped for, and it was miraculous. So that's the story of Nachum Ish Gamzul, who teaches us always to say Gamzul l'toiva, this too is good. And that concludes this lesson here about training all the limbs of our body that they should be so much in tune with the will of God that even when we don't see that a thing is good, we know that it really is good. We have to discipline ourselves, that our mind rules over our heart. That is number 1 principle in Hasidus. The mind has to rule over the heart. And principle number 2 is that by great tzaddikim, who they implement this concept so deeply, it's so ingrained within them that it becomes a new nature to them. And their physical body is responsive to the will of God. And so even when your brain doesn't understand, your body understands what's the right thing to do, and it does it. Like with Avraham Avinu, he had to send out his hand because his hand didn't want to go to take a knife to slaughter his son, because that wasn't what God intended. Hashem was just testing him in order that he should deserve the blessings that Hashem wanted to give him. There you are. Tomorrow, as Hashem, we're going to open the Tanya itself and start learning from page 1. So we really covered a lot, because in these stories we brought up a great number of central concepts in Jewish thought, Jewish mystical thought. Here we go. Any comments or questions you want to add? Now's a good time before I go. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. You're coming tomorrow? No. Okay.
Every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday
Where do you live?
in New Jersey, in England.
Oh, you're going back to Israel tomorrow? Not tomorrow. Tomorrow's our Shabbos.
No, I come back today. I came every day in the morning and I come back for lunch. New Jersey, she said. I live in New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey?
Yeah.
Ah.
I am. Actually, my rabbi in New Jersey, he told me he knows you. Is it Jacob Joseph? He has the Israeli Center.
What's his name?
Joseph Jacob. Jacob Joseph. Rabbi Joseph Jacob.
Yosef Yitzchok?
Uh-huh.
What's his family name?
Green. Actually, his wife is Sinha. I didn't tell me,
I don't know his wife.
Because she told me she was your student too.
Where in Israel do you live?
And hillside.
Hope you have a wonderful day, girls.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This well.
Oh, Kriya.
Yeah. Thank you. Hey, wow, we could choose the lesson. Are you sure? Yeah, I think she's coming back for the next one. Hi, so how is sleep in the house? It's fun. Yeah. Now it's the second week, right? Yeah, the second week. Yeah. And the next one is many holidays. So. But you have many activities in the house. Because we don't have class. Oh, yeah. Many days we don't have class. No, look. Look, actually. Check it out and look at Once you see 7, 8, 11, items, that's 14, 15 to 27, 8, and 8 alternatives.
Christmas is just in October.
Yeah, no, that one,
Right.
next year, my birthday is in the Thursday of February. So what is your given name?
Rebecca.
Hey, Rebecca?
Yeah, it's my middle name. 16 to 27.
Days. Because it's six.
And 24 to January 5th. Oh, no, we didn't have a class.
We have, I have a regular class.
Whoa. 7 to 21, no school.
Oh, there you go. Wow. And you can conectar de 1 year or 2 years.
One for now.
So tomorrow you are honor in the class.
Yeah.
Can you remember January, right?
No, not yet. Like the end of the month.
It's nice, it's exciting to live in a different place with roommates and
Yeah.
and you want to stay here or change back to your mom?
Huh?
Your mom? Change back?
Yeah.
Pretty nice. Why do you go there close?
Yeah.
So this is the same country.
Yeah.
So they can come. The family is coming in January.
Wow.
Yeah, all my family.